Going viral. You might have heard of the popular slang term Karen trending lately. For those unaware, this term describes a particular demographic of white women who belong to the middle class. These women are often intrusive, unpleasant, irritable, or bigoted. I once was one of those people who would put a hateful comment on a viral Karen video, saying something like, "Where do even these people come from?" Or, "She saw that one coming," etc. But it was only when I became the subject of wrongful hate by a TikToker that I came to know that not every single one of those women shown in the wrong light through the person filming them is truly what you would call a Karen. Firstly, let me tell you a little about myself. I am 25 and a single mother of a 3-year-old boy, Noah. I had a thing with his father during my final year in college. Although I informed him about his son, I wanted to impose the title of father on him only if he was prepared. Therefore, I never encouraged him to take on the responsibility. Due to my unexpected pregnancy, I couldn't pursue my career as an attorney, so I got a job as a bookkeeper through my friend's connection. I know, an entirely different career from someone with a law degree, but since I couldn't give a bar exam for maternity reasons, I couldn't practice law. It's not like I've given up on my dream. I'm just waiting for my son to grow up a little. Noah is my utmost concern, and I'm ready to go to any lengths for him, even if it seems strange or unconventional to others. My employer allowed me to bring my son to work as he understood the responsibilities of being a single parent. He, too, was a single father of lovely twin daughters and had a fondness for children. He even had a daycare constructed on the first floor of the company building to provide convenience for single parents who needed to look after their children. Things were going smoothly until the day I was returning from work and discovered a truck obstructing my driveway. I exited my car and knocked on the truck's window, finding 2 boys making a TikTok video inside. "Excuse me, can you move your truck? It's blocking my way," I said, hoping they would, but they looked at each other and shook their head instead of doing that. "Can you wait till we finish this video?" one of them said, and then focused back on filming. "Can't you move for a minute and let me pass? You can continue making your video." "Listen, Karen, we'll only move after we finish our video, so hold your horses by then." I was taken aback by being addressed by that term. It wasn't like I did something to deserve to get called that, so it made me angry. "Mind your tongues. That's my driveway you're blocking, and I don't have time to wait another 30 minutes for you to finish some silly TikTok, so move it, will you?" I was pissed. My son was crying inside the car, and these boys prevented me from entering my house. Their cameras had turned to film me, now while they called me Karen and started blaming me for being so rude to them for entirely false reasons. I understand you want to earn your fame by making videos and posting them online, but that doesn't mean you can go around disturbing other people's lives for that. After arguing with them for another 10 minutes, when I noticed it wasn't going anywhere, I gave up and returned to my car. I picked up Noah to try and calm him when my nose picked up a smell from his diaper. This was already the last one that I changed on my way here, and since there was no spare left, I had to wait till those 2 moved their truck. Noah was the kind of kid who wouldn't stop crying until he was out of his dirty diapers or pants. So I had to walk to them again and ask them to move. "We won't move until our video is finished, bitch." Their camera was once again facing me, and before I could say anything else, one of them opened a bottle of water and threw it on me. I had enough of their bullshit, so I returned to my car and dialed 911, informing them of everything while asking for help. A local patrolling officer arrived within a few minutes and finally made them move their truck. I rushed inside after parking my car and bathed Noah before changing him into a new set of clothes. There was much left to do at home, like cleaning, washing Noah's and my dirty clothes, and hopefully a nap before I started preparing dinner. A week after that incident, My friend Emily shared a video asking if it was me. I was confused about what she was talking about, but once I opened it, I was horrified to see a video of me with over 1 million views going viral with the caption, "Karen got what she deserved." It was edited in a way that made me look bad. "Mind your tongue. That's my driveway. Go away, you people." These were taken from my sentences, making me look like an angry, nosy woman. And there was a part at the end where they threw water at me. The comment section was filled with hate, where people were egging them on to do worse things to me, where some people said I would have just slapped her mouth shut or something similar. I also had a TikTok page of myself where I used to share my baby's videos or pictures where my face was shown in some of them. People started dropping the Karen word even on them. I thought it would calm down in a few days, but when I was shopping in Target with my baby, a teenage TikToker recognized me and turned the camera toward me saying, "Karen spotted." I knew arguing with a brainless teenager who doesn't want to think outside their comfort zone would be entirely pointless. So I got out of there and asked the neighborhood community for the CCTV footage of that day when those people were a nuisance to me. I uploaded that video to my baby's account and explained the situation. It didn't cross as views as the other viral video, but there were still positive responses. People removed their negative comments and apologized for judging me too harshly. Some even sympathized with me, while others said I could have waited for them to finish their videos. I don't know if it's because of hate, but that experience was one of the most horrifying and terrible. It's been 3 years now, and it's a relief that people have forgotten me over other viral videos while I'm preparing for my bar test.
Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. I lived in a small neighborhood in Morro Bay, and while growing up, I had always heard a rumor that there was a huge hidden treasure somewhere inside the woods of Morro Rock, and if someone gets as lucky as to find it, they would be able to feed their generations for ages. I didn't believe the rumor because, come on, if there was such a thing as a treasure that could feed one for generations, then the government would be the first one to hunt it down. But despite the rumors being groundless, my friends always talked about it, and looking at the way they talked, they seemed rather interested in hunting it. I tried explaining to them a few times that obsessing over something as a fake treasure would only be a waste of time, but they never listened to me. Instead, as time went by and as we grew older, they only got more vehement about finding the treasure. One day when I was cleaning the old garage along with my father, we came across Grandpa's few old possessions. My curiosity drove me to go through them, and just when I was looking through some old pictures and a few tiny boxes, my gaze went to an ancient-looking piece of paper. Looking at the muddy yellow was surrounded with dampness made it turn brittle. I could easily say the paper was quite old, so I took it out of the box and opened it, only to find it to be a map. I could tell it was the map of Morro Bay, which has every old area drawn on it. One could even say it was too detailed. Well, it didn't surprise me looking at how my grandpa was a cartographer, and a good one at that. As I gave Grandpa's things another glance, I could feel each one of them had accommodated a precious memory in them. So I put everything back where it belonged after cleaning the dirt that had been covering them. Just as I was leaving the garage to give myself a clean shower, my cell phone started ringing. I took it out of my pocket and checked who was calling me, and the name flashing on the screen was Roy. Along with being my best friend, he was one of those who was set up on finding the treasure. "Dude, meet me at Rick's place at 5 and don't be late." He started the moment I answered the call, as disconnected it after finishing up the sentence. I stared at the phone for a few seconds trying to grasp the situation, and then looked at the time. It was already 5:25 p.m., and I was covered in the garage's dirt. It would at least take me 20 minutes for me to drive to Rick's, and at least 10 for me to clean myself up, so I had to start right away. After I was done with the shower and dressing up, Mom called for me asking me to buy eggs from the supermarket. Since I could never say no to her, I had to go there, which took another 15 minutes out of the limited time Roy had assigned me with. Anyway, after completing all the unfinished tasks, which by the way was hanging laundry after delivering eggs, I finally reached half an hour late. I knew he was going to be more than 10 minutes late. Now give me my $10, Colin said, giving a high five to Ricky while a disappointed Roy handed the money to him. For God's sake, I was cleaning the garage when you called me. I thought something was urgent. Anger fueled in as I realized what was going on. Come on, Alan, don't get upset. It was just a bet as a joke among friends. Besides, we did call you for something important. My anger subsided as Roy said that. What is it about? I asked, sitting on the couch beside others. We are thinking of going camping in Morrow Woods, Colin said after clearing his throat. And what are the chances that we stumble across the buried treasure there? Ricky said with a greedy grin on his face. Not with this nonsense again. You know the treasure isn't real. They were getting on my nerves now with this stupid, constant song about it. But what if it is? Think about it, Alan. If we can acquire that treasure, the things we would be able to do, the luxury we would afford would be nothing like anyone can. Roy's eyes lit up as he described those things. I looked at them in pity, and an idea popped into my mind. I did find an ancient map of those woods that Grandpa had safely hidden away, I said while looking hesitantly at them. And trust me, all of their eyes started shining sparks as if I had just told them the spot of treasure. After that, all of them started to insist that I go with them on the camping trip, and I agreed, as well as looking how I determined to remove the worms from their minds. The four of us decided to meet the next evening at Colin's house, as it was closer to each of our houses, and he was the only one with a car among us. I sent a picture of the map to all of them before meeting them the next day, and as we were gathering at the decided place, Colin finally revealed that his car had an issue and wasn't starting. Ricky gave us an idea that since we each had a snap of the map, why don't we set on a hunt individually, and whoever finds it first would inform the others. I didn't want to say anything, but I sensed the ulterior motive behind his words. He wanted to reach for the treasure before anyone else and take it all for himself, and by the looks of it, others had started to think the same thing. It was too bad, though, that each one of them was going to be disappointed when they didn't find anything at all. Another suggestion was made by Roy that we go on teams instead, since going alone would be too dangerous, all the while volunteering himself to come with me. I agreed, and so did the other two, and so we finally went in a different direction after reaching the woods, and the hunt began. After around 2 hours of looking, Roy excused himself to take a dump and went a bit far from where I was standing, only to come back after half an hour. I wasn't one to judge others' timings at taking a dump. Everyone has their own needs, so we continued walking forward, when I suddenly felt Roy's pace getting slower. I'm sorry, Alan. I turned around after hearing him mumble under his breath, only to see him take out a sharp knife from his bag. He then looked at me with dead serious eyes, which sent chills down my spine. What do you think you're doing, Roy? If this is for the map, rest assured that it's fake, and even if you do find treasure, I will never ask for a single penny of it. Put the damn knife away. It was as if my words weren't reaching his ears, because he kept looking at me with the same terrifying eyes and walking towards me. Just as he lunged over me, I grabbed a rock from the ground and hit him on the head, which made him stumble, but wasn't enough to make him unconscious. He looked at me again with more rage-filled eyes. This time, I knew for sure he was going to kill me, and he did stab me, but on my hand as I blocked the knife with it. Snap out of it! I kicked him in his gut as I screamed at him, but it looked like nothing was working on him. It was as if he had turned into some kind of greedy monster that could see nothing but treasure. Even calling others for help was of no use since they didn't respond, and I had to do something or he was going to kill me. As I struggled to avoid getting stabbed to death, I grabbed a slightly bigger stone and hit him again on the head, accidentally a bit harder. His brain smashed out, and he fell to the ground. A terrified scream escaped my throat as I saw his lifeless body, his hands still holding the knife. I ran to get out of the woods, only to stumble across something and fall to the ground. As I looked around, I saw Colin lying dead on the ground with multiple stab wounds, and not too far from him was Ricky in the same state as him. He didn't go to take a dump," I mumbled with shaken words as I somehow managed to get myself up and ran out of the woods. This isn't what I wanted when I told them about that map. I couldn't stop my tears from streaming through my eyes as my heart pounded like crazy in terror, as if I was ready to jump out of their throat any minute now. As I ran out covered with sweat, tears, and snot, I couldn't help but think that greed had taken over their minds for them to become insane like that. Before I even get to my story, I want to emphasize the point of me writing this. There was more than enough blame for what happened to go around for all of us. The decision was ours to cut corners. Trusting our mother's home to a stranger was stupid. No one denies that. However, the events that unfolded as a result were 100% not our fault. We did everything society tells us to do. The police were called, and their job was to protect my sister. They failed in their job. This is on their hands. My number one aim is to impress upon you to know that it's important to fully vet any individual before allowing them to access your home. The following story is written to drive home this very important point. At the end of 2019, just before Christmas in fact, my mother passed away from a long-term illness. So I was already married and set up a home on my own. My mother left her home to my younger sister, Emily. Emily had been renting up until this time. Release was just ended, so she moved in until she was sure of what she was going to do with it. She knew she had my support. Regardless of her decision, my wife and I threw her a surprise housewarming party for her. At the party, one of Emily's coworkers gave her a kitten as a gift. She was unable to have any pets in her apartment. It was love at first sight. The weeks after the party were life as usual for all of us. Emily managed to litter train the kitten, and all was going well. Just before Valentine's Day, Emily's employer notified her of a business conference she was required to attend. It was part of her job, and this will be a first trip since she had moved into the new house. Normally, this will be simple, but now with the kitten, things were a tad more complicated. My family was unable to watch the kitten because of my daughter's allergies. Kenneling was briefly considered until the price was found to be too great. Besides, she didn't like the idea of her precious little angel being locked up for 3 days. She chose to search on Craigslist for house sitters. An earlier call to a service proved too high. Also, she found this young girl around 19 who claimed to be an independent house sitter. They spoke first on the phone, then met at the house so she could look around. The girl seemed kind and professional. After agreeing on an amount, the deal was set. 2 weeks later, Emily kissed her kid goodbye and left her trip. She checked in the first night, and all sounds like it was going well. 2 days later, she returned to a nightmare. The clean, beautiful home she had left was now scattered with clothes and dirty dishes. When she confronted the girl got mad and said she wasn't a maid. Things only got worse from there. My sister was horrified to see that the litter box was full, and the kitten had already begun going on the floor. Certainly not the poor cat's fault. And this infuriated my sister, and she refused to pay the girl. An argument broke out, and the police were eventually called. They really couldn't do much other than force the girl to leave the property, but the girl was furious. She vowed she'd get back at my sister as she left. This was all set in front of the police, but they obviously didn't take that threat seriously. The officer went on their way, and my sister began cleaning up the mess inside. A few days passed, and Emily tried to put the experience behind her. That Friday, soon after returning from work, a man rang the doorbell and asked for her. She identified herself, and the man began demanding the money owed to the young girl. My sister calmly explained the situation, but the only grew more aggressive. Although she was now terrified, she held her ground and refused. This was when the man backhanded her. She fell back and hit her head on the floor. Unfortunately, it wasn't done. He approached her and demanded the money again. My sister, who was clearly concussed, didn't answer, so he punched her unconscious. Apparently, while she was out, he entered the house and stole all the cash from her purse. But the time she had awakened, he was gone. It took her several minutes to crawl to her phone and call 911. They arrived soon after, and she was rushed to the hospital. I'm happy to say that there's no long-term physical injuries, but mentally, Emily was a mess, and still is, honestly, to be frank. And I know the identity of the man and his location and would have killed him. Fortunately, I regained my senses and agreed to leave it in the authorities' hands, despite their inability to prevent it. The responsible parties were found and arrested within a couple of days. It wasn't some great mystery after all. The man who assaulted Emily was an ex-boyfriend of the young girl. She had promised him half of the money to retrieve it. The young girl claimed she never or intended anyone to be hurt. But her threat in front of witnesses, cops at that, sealed her fate. She managed to get away with probation because she had no priors, or acts, on the other hand, had a long record. He was given 3 years. But once the COVID crisis began, he was released early. The entire family was less than happy to hear of the lenient sentences. But criminals getting off easy is now new under the sun of these days. In the months since the attack, everyone has done their most to be there for Emily. Her recovery is going well, and she seems to be responding to therapy. The lockdowns have proved the blessing for her. She'd been able to heal at a much slower and calm pace. Until restrictions are lifted completely, she'd been approved to work from home, or little furry friend has served as a priceless companion for her during these terrible times. Although some may say he was the cause of this whole awful mess. Uncle glad he's been around to keep her company.
This story is told from a female perspective. It happened to me a couple of months ago. I was on a dating app called Tinder. I matched with this one guy that I found attractive. He had a clean-shaven head and was more appealing compared to the other guys on the app. His profile said he was the same age as me, 25. The bio in his profile was intriguing. It read, "I am the most versatile person you will ever meet. I compare myself to a chameleon because I like to be different and spontaneous, randomly. You should join me." This made me compelled to chat with him. He then sends me a direct message saying, "Hi, I'm Dennis." I sent him a message back introducing myself and asked him what brings him on Tinder. He responds by saying, "Want to have dinner at my place tonight?" Ignoring the fact that I just asked him a question. Without hesitation, I message, "Sure." I usually wouldn't be so forward with someone I just met online, but something seemed compelling about this guy. He then sent me his address and mentioned that he'll be inviting a few friends. I messaged him back saying, "Okay," and waited till then. Later that night, I drove to his address and arrived at his front door. As soon as I'm about to knock on the front door, it opens, with Dennis staring dead at me. He had a blank expression on his face and didn't say a word. I found this very, very bizarre and creepy. About 10 seconds later, he says hi, then leans over to give me a hug. He tells me to come inside and I stupidly go inside. As we arrive inside, I sit on the couch and Dennis immediately asks me if I want anything to drink. I tell him water, please. He then tells me that Patricia only drinks tea. I was confused by who he was referring to. I asked him who Patricia was. He then tells me that she is one of his friends that he invited over. I tell him okay. Then he proceeds to get me some tea in his kitchen. A couple of minutes pass and the most bizarre thing happens. Dennis comes out of the kitchen with 2 cups of tea, dressed as an adolescent child. He wore a yellow hoodie and blue track pants. The clothes honestly look like it belonged to a teenage boy. He places the 2 cups of tea on the table and reintroduces himself again, saying his name is Hedwig, in a creepy child's voice. I found this really disturbing and assumed that this was some sort of sick joke. I awkwardly put on a fake smile and go along with the alleged joke. At this point, he tells me, drink the tea, again in a disturbing child's voice. I really didn't want to, and knew I had to get the hell out of there. So I cleverly say, don't we have to wait for your friend Patricia? He got angry and said that if I don't drink it, he will release the beast. He honestly sounded like the type of child that throws tantrums when their parents don't buy them things that they want. I was trembling in fear and didn't know if he was armed or had a knife on him, so I drank it. The room suddenly started becoming blurry, and I eventually started fading, then blacked out. I assume it was from whatever he put in the tea. I then remember waking up on the floor and seeing a woman standing in front of me. The woman was wearing burgundy. Looks like a burgundy long sleeve shirt, black skirt and some heels. I eventually get up from the floor and rub my eyes to see that the woman was Dennis, dressed as a female. I remember thinking to myself, this guy is a psycho. He then said, I'm Patricia. Would you like to have a tea party with me? In a female-like voice. I thought to myself, this guy is so fucked up. I acted fast and told him, I'll be interested in a tea party only if you invited Hedwig back, which was the teenage boy he imitated earlier. Surprisingly, he obliged and walked back into the kitchen to supposedly get Hedwig. I immediately used this opportunity to haul ass out of there and drive home. It's been a month since the incident occurred. I haven't taken effort to report it to the police. I don't know if that was the smartest decision, but as I tell you this story, it still resonates with me until this day.